Hello everybody, welcome back to Brands Hatch and welcome back to the 5th round of the Ferrari Challenge UK 2026 season. We arrived here at Brands Hatch yesterday, on the Indy circuit yesterday for qualifying in the morning and an ever exciting race one. We saw qualifying 2 this morning, this time on the GP circuit, the Grand Prix layout here at Brands Hatch, before we are just about to form the grid for race number 2 of the weekend. A centenary year here at Brands Hatch, a century of power, as you can see, rather aptly displayed on the commentary tower, for which we are on the top floor. You might be able to see us. There we go. But now it's great to see the crowds have slowly started to roll back into the grandstands, much like we saw at the start of the season at Le Castellet and at Snetterton for round 2, Silverstone at round 3, Alton Park for round 4, of course, here at Brands Hatch for round 5, before we head to Donington Park to round out the season on the 19th and 20th of September. Of course, we saw, or at least some of us saw, the calendar ahead of the 2027 season yesterday evening. The temperatures have risen since this morning. Track temp was 27, it's up to 33 degrees. The air temperature up at 25 degrees. Humidity has come down, but the wind has remained as it was, albeit it does feel slightly stronger when you are stood outside. So the grid is slowly starting to form. Drivers out there on their installation laps, their warming up laps, to get as much temperature into their Pirelli tyres as possible. The Brands Hatch Grand Prix circuit for which we are on today, it is 3.916 kilometres or 2.433 miles. 9 corners awaits the drivers. The lap record out and out is a 1 minute 12.276. Not quite going to be in the realms of that, albeit Gilbert Yates is going to give it a good go. Joining myself, Jack Werrell, on commentary duties is Jack Mace. Alongside me, Jack, yesterday was brilliantly close, and going off what we saw in qualifying, today's going to be closer.
Hoping for more of the same. It was a brilliant day yesterday on the Indy circuit. Altogether, a different challenge that the GP circuit will present to our drivers today. It's very close in qualifying, some really close running, especially between Christopher Baton, Mike Dewhurst and Manuel Agostner, all within 200ths of a second in the qualifying classification. We'll go through the grid shortly to just run through the rest of the order, but it's a really good chance for just having some really close racing out on circuit. That's all we want to see. We want to see all of these drivers putting going really for it, just putting on a good show for everyone out here.
And of course, coming into this weekend, the championship was a talking point around various points, because we've got some coming into this weekend, the championship was wide open in Trofeo Pirelli. Gilbert Yates came into Brands Hatch on 115 points. Bradley Yates, his son, on 107. Chris Baton arrived on 110 points in the lead of the Copa Shell standings. Sean Rann on 76. So if this race were to work its way into a position where Christopher Baton wins, he would be champion no matter what Sean Rann does, provisionally of course. If Sean Rann wins the race, there is simply no option for Christopher Baton to become the Copa Shell champion. However, if Chris Baton finishes second and Sean Rann third, Chris Baton would still be champion. So for Chris Baton, it's an important weekend now, because this could decide the fate of his next season, for which if he wins the Copa Shell championship, he would be promoted to Trofeo Pirelli, so he can start making really early preparations. As for Trofeo Pirelli, Gilbert would be champion if he wins the race and his son Bradley simply does not score, which would mean he would have to make a premature end to his race. But that is the only occasion for which Gilbert would become champion. So championships to be decided this weekend and next weekend, or the next round at Donington Park. The grid is forming still. We still need to wait for a few more cars to arrive, I think, before we can hand down to Dave. I can see Gilbert Yates is very shortly arriving on to his grid slot, followed then by Christopher Baton, and we've got another couple of cars still out there in the woodland section on the GP part of the circuit. But a unique challenge in comparison to yesterday, Jack. Obviously, much shorter, quick-fire circuit, the Indy circuit. The Grand Prix, it needs a slightly higher level of respect, because all of a sudden those margins for error are a lot smaller. Yeah,
we mentioned it yesterday during the broadcast for the Indy race. The GP circuit it closes in on you a bit. The trees suddenly become a lot more dense. The barriers feel like they're coming closer, and there's in your mind is a lot less room for error out on the GP circuit. So it'll be fascinating to see how they're able to handle that during the race. One thing that I hope will not be as much of an issue as it was during the Indy race yesterday, potentially finding some space. Lap traffic, that came to the fore a little bit during the course of the race on the Indy circuit yesterday. There's a lot more room with which to work with in terms of the car in front of you and the car behind, so more gaps can potentially not necessarily open up, but there's less of an opportunity for those other cars around you to, let's say, interfere with the proceedings.
Yeah, absolutely. We did see qualifying this morning, very eventful, but it's great to see Sean Rann is back out there. The final car of Joseph Dean is very shortly arriving on the grid, so Dave works his way into the middle of the cars, and hopefully we'll be able to hear from a number of our drivers.
Thank you so much, Jack. And Jack, here we are then on the grid ahead of race 2. As you've correctly identified, it's a new challenge for our drivers going on to the GP circuit. Having raced on the Indy circuit yesterday, of course, they've qualified on that GP circuit today. John Turner here with the striking livery, striking personality and striking driver coach, about to do the very best they can across the course of this race, Ferrari Challenge UK. Just ahead, Darren Howell with the blue and yellow colour scheme that he runs on his particular Ferrari Challenge UK car. His driver coach, Sean Doyle. I haven't spoken to Sean this weekend, which is very unusual. Darren away getting a comfort break, I'm guessing. What are the plans? How are you going to run this?
Well, the plan is always to try and win, but let's see. We'll have a good start. We'll keep with the pack, and let's see what happens from there.
It is a different prospect, isn't it, the GP circuit, Sean?
Yeah, honestly, it's one of my favourites. It's an amazing circuit, probably one of the best in the world, and it's one that we don't get to use very often in racing. So it's a huge privilege for Ferrari Challenge to be here today.
Thank you, Sean, for talking to us as always. Sean, looking after Darren Howell. Tony Dean alongside us here. Tony Dean, a welcome addition to the Ferrari Challenge, I have to say, and the entire Dean family contingent making their way onto the grid right now, which is lovely to see. Mrs. Dean is here as well. Sharon to her friends, which regrettably I'm not, she told me earlier on. Tony, very well done to you. We've been really, really impressed with you, and from my side, it's a delight to see you back on the grid, friend.
Thanks, Dave. Delighted to be here.
GP circuit, something very special, isn't it?
Really special. It's only open 6 times a year, I believe, and it's amazing that Ferrari Challenge can race here. It's a brilliant circuit. Lots of undulations, quite fast out the back, and for a novice like me, I'm learning.
You are, but you're doing a really, really good job, and I'm going to grab a word with Alex Fors, who's here somewhere, driver coach to Tony Dean. What you want in a racing driver when you are a driver coach, I've always been told, is something of a sponge, and he is lapping up all the info you're giving him.
He is improving all the time, every time he's out on track, every lap, even doing his fastest laps towards the end of the race when everyone's tyres usually go off. Just shows he's growing and growing, so hopefully we can start with driving with that intention from the start of this race and tag on to the pack in front.
Thanks for talking to us, Alex, and good luck for the race ahead. So, Tony Dean, then, of course, one half of the Dean combo that we have in the Ferrari Challenge UK race, because, of course, we have Joseph Dean as well, who will be just a little bit further up the order. He, indeed, is a Pirelli runner, of course. William Bolster with another brilliant qualifying. Well done to the driver of the number 66 car, who gives us a wave. Fulvio Musi is his driver coach, always smiling. And yeah, Fulva's a great guy. And Ian Morris is here as well. Ian done another great job in qualifying. Best of luck to you, Ian Morris. As we continue our walk down the grid, then it's a packed grid today. That's for sure. Lots of people here enjoying the atmosphere and the ambience of being on the grid ahead of a Ferrari Challenge UK race. It's a unique atmosphere. It's a unique place to be, and we love it. It's a real privilege to be down here. John Marcar is here, former Ferrari Challenge driver, and I say that with some regret because I say former Ferrari Challenge driver. Where the heck are you, friend?
Let's not go former, let's go just having a break.
Okay, just resting.
The plan is we'll be back, that's the plan. Missing it painfully. It's bittersweet being here because I remember I've kind of got second-hand nerves. I feel like the time has got me. I feel nervous for everyone else, but equally it's quite nice to be able to relax and watch everyone else having a good time. But yes, we plan to be back next year. If we can find some money down the back of the sofa, yeah, we'll be back.
And you've got a unique ability to be able to tell us truthfully what it's like to transition, if you will, from the Indy circuit to the GP circuit. It's a big ask, isn't it?
Huge ask. And I mean, yeah, for me last year, for a lot of these drivers this year, they're seeing that GP circuit for the first time in free practice this morning. Then they've got to go in quali. You know, Indy, you learn to master that and you get control of it. Suddenly then you've got an entirely new layout to learn. There's a bit of sim driving you can do to get to grips, but until you're there on those undulations, it's a lot to learn. But it is brilliant fun. It is one of the best circuits in the world, and we're so lucky to have it here.
John, lovely to see you, and we're looking forward to seeing you back on the grid next year. John Marcar then, as he says, he's resting at the moment, just taking a year out of racing, but he's going to be back next season, and we're looking forward to that. John Marcar, a very, very good driver, and just check him out online. Got some fantastic content as well as John Marcar. Now, you may recall me mentioning that we have a Dean combo because Joseph Dean is here. driver of the number 12 car. Now, in qualifying, he was supremely quick, and he was potentially on for a pole position. But unfortunately, he came up against some traffic and therefore wasn't able to put that lap together. So he is going to be one to watch in this race. And also one to watch in this race is going to be Gilbert Yates' son, Bradley. Bradley is to my left-hand side here, and in quali, Bradley really took it to his father during the qualification session today. And it's going to be very interesting to see if he can get the edge on him. Maybe going into turn one, he will have the outside line, where, of course, Gilbert is going to have the inside line. I can just see in the corner of my eye Phil Hansen here, Le Mans race winner. I'm going to grab a quick word with Phil. Now, Phil, of course, most of your racing has been done around the world and not so much here in the UK. Surely it's impossible to overtake around the outside going down paddock, isn't it?
I don't know. Honestly, like you said, I haven't done much racing yet, so I'm not going to try and BS the viewer. But yeah, anything can happen, especially at the start of the race. It depends, how the lane goes and whether you get a jump on the pole sitter. And like you said, there's a lot of room here, so it's doable. If not here, maybe in Druids.
Listen, it's been wonderful for you to be here, for our point of view, to be here at Ferrari Challenge weekend. Have you enjoyed it?
Yeah, it's been great, actually. It's nice to see so many cars, and the weather's been fantastic, so nice, calm weekend. And it's also nice to see a lot of local fans coming out to see the racing. I imagine they don't know that it's Ferrari Challenge, so they think they're just committed racing fans no matter what's happening here on the weekend at Brands Hatch. So as a true racing enthusiast myself, even though I'm driving, it's nice to see the fans turn out for this sort of thing.
Thanks for talking to us, Phil. And that was Phil Hansen then. Le Mans race winner, of course, driver of a Ferrari hypercar. We're hyped, ready for race 2 here at Brands Hatch. And we have the 2 jacks that will be bringing us every single centimetre of tarmac of the race action to come this afternoon.
Thank you, Dave. Great to hear from a number of our drivers, a number of our driver coaches, and of course a couple of special guests down there as well. Looking forward to seeing John Marquardt come back, Jack Mace. Of course, we've seen him in years gone by, and he was very quick from the offset and just carried on getting quicker. Is this what Ferrari Challenge UK needs and what Gilbert Yates doesn't?
Yes. No, I think that's a good way of putting it. I was excitedly seeing, coming into this season, I did see that John Marquardt's name was missing from the entry list, and I thought, that's a shame. It's a really good opportunity to get another one towards the front of the field, but great to hear that potentially he'll be coming back next season for the Ferrari Challenge UK season. What season that's looking to shape up to be, by the way. The calendar got announced overnight at the gala dinner last night. A really good calendar, which I'm sure we'll delve more into a little bit later on.
We will indeed. You pointed out a few moments ago just how busy the grandstand on the run-in towards turn 1 looked. It's great to see that there are so many of you in that grandstand, ready to get this race underway. 30 minutes plus 1 lap, much like we saw yesterday. If anything, would you say it's maybe a little easier on tyres? Because on the Indy circuit, there's a lot of right-handers. So the left-hand side of the car naturally has to work a lot harder. But with it being on the GP circuit, granted, there are still a lot of right-handers, but it is somewhat equaled out. You've got some favourable camber out there, and you've got some curbs you can definitely use that little bit more. It
remains a clockwise circuit, so there will still be more right-handers than left, but I think that's a very fair statement to make, that it is a bit easier on those side of the tyres. That said, actually, keep an eye on the rear left. The rear left could potentially be going under a lot of load throughout the back section of the course.
Yeah, so the race is about to get underway. 30 minutes plus 1 lap of Ferrari Challenge UK action about to roll away from the grid. So the safety car leads the field away. Just joining us outside our commentary box, Manuela Gosner's driver coach, Jamie Stanley, who was expertly navigating the hordes of wires that we have outside of our commentary box door. He's already on the radio just chatting to Manuela, informing her of what's going on. Everyone's clear of the grid, everyone's rolling, as you would expect in their 296 Challenge cars. You will have already seen or heard that we've mentioned Trofeo Pirelli and Copa Shell. Those are our 2 classes. Trofeo Pirelli, they have the red FIA windscreen banner along the top of the windscreen. Copa Shell, it is the yellow FIA windscreen banner. And that's not to take away from pace. As we've seen in qualifying, it's very, very close indeed. We've got Sean Rann and Christopher Baton ahead of a couple of Trofeo Pirellis. But Gilbert Yates lines up on pole position once again alongside his son, Bradley Yates. 26 pole positions for Gilbert Yates now. Joseph Dean joined by Sean Rann on row 2 of the grid. Great to have him back out after qualifying. Christopher Baton, champion-elect, lines up alongside last season's Copa champion, Mike Dewhurst on row 3. Row 4, Manuel Agosner looking for a better day today. Ahead of Andrea Seminara. On row 5 of the grid, you've got Ian Morris, who was quick in qualifying, as well as yesterday's podium sitter, William Bolster. Darren Howell had a busy qualifying. He lines up alongside Tony Dean. And on row 7 of the grid, who narrowly missed out on row 6, it's John Turner. Again, a grid from front to back full of racing potential, and we're going to see that over the next sort of 30 or so minutes, and it's going to be closer than ever.
100%. There's battles all the way throughout the field. We have the top of Copa Shell with Sean Rann and Christopher Baton, one to very much look forward to. A little bit further back at the 4th and 5th in Trofeo Pirelli, Mike Dewhurst, who is representing the Dick Lovatt-Swindon team this weekend, and Manuel Agosner, who's looking to come back from the unfortunate incident yesterday. She's been going well out there. She elected not to run in the final part of qualifying earlier, which has meant that she's lost a couple of positions as to where she would have been otherwise. But as the cars approach the final corner, it looks like we're about to get underway here, Jack.
We are. The safety car will peel its way into the pit lane on the right-hand side. It's going to be Gilbert and Bradley Yates on the front row, both representing Charles Hurst. The safety car has peeled away. It's over to Gilbert Yates to control the pace of the field. The red lights are on in preparation for his arrival. As soon as the red lights go out, we'll be able to go racing for the final time this weekend. So Gilbert Yates and Bradley Yates on the front row. Alongside, they have Joseph Dean and Sean Rann. The lights are on. As the lights go out, which they do now, it's a good start from Bradley Yates. This time he draws himself level. Christopher Baton with a slower start under pressure from Manuel Agosner. But today, unlike yesterday, Gilbert Yates manages to secure that lead nice and early on the exit of turn 1. Bradley Yates tries to close in, and then Mike Dewhurst almost into the tail of Christopher Baton. But Sean Rann tries to fight it out all the way around the outside, but more importantly for him, he's lost the lead of Copa Shell. This could be what Chris Baton needs to take the Copa Shell Championship.
Really good start from Christopher Baton. Sean Rann just washed out ever so slightly on the exit of Paddock Hill Bend, which allowed Baton and Dewhurst briefly an opportunity to go through. Dewhurst now coming under increasing pressure from Manuel Agosner as the cars enter the GP Loop racing for the first time this weekend. Gilbert Yates out in front is coming under a lot of pressure immediately from Bradley Yates, who's just looking to really pile the pressure on the current championship leader. Doing a good job so far. Joseph Dean, it was very important that he held on to third. We know the pace that he's potentially got in that car, and it'll be fascinating to see if he's able to take the fight to the house of Yates.
At the moment, Gilbert Yates still leading the way from Bradley Yates. Joseph Dean, if anything, coming under a bit of pressure from the champion-elect in Copa Shell of Christopher Baton, who is starting to build a bit of a margin between himself and his main championship rival by way of Sean Rann. Mike Dewhurst still soaking up the pressure from Manuel Agosner, but over the stripe once again for the first time at racing speed this afternoon, it is going to be Gilbert Yates. Bradley Yates still staying within touch at the moment, and that's the last thing Gilbert Yates wants to see. Over the start-finish line, now we see Mike Dewhurst dive to the inside of Sean Rann. Mike Dewhurst with the inside line, nibbles at the curb, through he goes. Sean Rann, he's got a lot of work to do if he wants to close in onto Chris Baton. Up at Druids now, the battle between the Yates is getting closer, and that's drawing Joseph Dean and Christopher Baton in.
Oh, Bradley Yates really late on the brakes as they come down towards Graham Hill Bend for the second time, getting right onto the rear bumper of the car directly ahead. Sean Rann, whilst he won't be too happy with seeing Christopher Baton drive off into the distance at the front of Copa Shell, he might be a little bit content at least with the fact that Andrea Seminara, Darren Howell and William Bolster and Ian Morris, in fact, are all fighting away for that place. Right behind Sean Rann, Manuel Agosner is looking to try and find a way through, but isn't going to be able to on this occasion.
We had a little look to the inside and the outside, flashing of the lights just to try and distract Sean Rann, to force him into some sort of mistake. Not quite working at this stage, but Sean Rann, he's got a lot of work to do if he wants to stay in touch with Christopher Baton. And in mathematical chance of winning the Copa Shell Championship, but Christopher Baton, a dream start to his race. As for Andrea Seminara, he's got Darren Howell for company. You just spotted him.
Christopher Baton, fastest of anyone on the circuit in the first sector this lap, so he's really putting the pace on. It's almost an inverse of the start of the race that we saw yesterday with Sean Rann controlling it at the front of the Copper Shell, putting on a staunch defensive drive. This time, Christopher Baton got himself out to the front of Copper Shell very quickly. Mike Dewhurst with the fastest lap of the race, by the way. We've got a replay just coming up on the screen of the start. Important for Gilbert Yates to hold that inside line early on, but a little bit further back, you can see Sean Rann just a little bit wide on the exit of Paddock Hill. That opened up an opportunity for Christopher Baton and Mike Dewhurst to attack. Goes wide on the exit of Druids, but we saw in the race yesterday that allows you to get a bit more momentum, so he was able to hold onto what was at the time 5th place, which he has later on lost to Mike Dewhurst.
Yeah, Christopher Baton, not the best first phase of the start, but kept it tucked in towards both the apex of Paddock Hill Bend and Druids, nice and neat and tidy. And now look where that's put him. Bradley Yates now faster than anyone through Sector 1, so he's still applying that pressure onto his father, Gilbert. 3/10 was the gap last time they went through the timing beam. They will exit Sector 2 in just a few moments' time, for which we will get an update. It looks like the gap has opened up somewhat between Gilbert and Bradley on the run through Sheen Curve. The gap has definitely opened up now. But for Gilbert Yates, he's really got to work hard to run away. But that was 6/10 more than found in that middle sector alone. So all of a sudden he's found that extra gear and he's thinking, right, I've kept you where you are for long enough. It's time to run away now.
The middle sector comprising of the majority of the GP loop here at Brands Hatch, so it was a really critical middle sector for Gilbert Yates. Comes across the timing line to set a new fastest lap of the race, nearly a second quicker than anyone else has been able to do so far. Really good run so far for Gilbert Yates. He's just bridged that gap, and it's vital that he's able to do so. A little bit further back, Mike Dewhurst continuing to apply pressure on our Copa Shell leader, Christopher Baton. Dewhurst is still going at a rate of knots, but he's now found himself a bit of an orange roadblock in front of him. He needs to try and find a way around Christopher Baton, who himself, well, in his mindset, I can imagine he's preparing for Trofeo Pirelli next season. So this is a fight that we could see play out a fair bit more in 2027.
And of course, they would be both in a very similar position, both being Copa Shell champions and making that step up into Trofeo Pirelli. And if they are this even on pace, it shows that we are, as you say, going to have a brilliant rivalry on our hands next year. And let's not forget, they are really not that far away from Joseph Dean and the Yates pairing. From Manuela Gosner, she's still fighting away, trying to close her way onto the coattails of Sean Rann. But naturally, she said, there's a bit of adaptation to be done to her driving style, to drive what is a car that maybe doesn't have the same geometry as it did coming into the weekend. But as we look at Chris Baton and Mike Dewhurst just heading in towards the final couple of corners now, Chris Baton is doing everything he needs to do to win this championship today.
Yep, he's doing a sterling job out in front right now, coming across the line to complete what will be his 4th lap of the race, still leading the Copa Shell field. Sean Rann coming under increasing pressure from Manuela Gosner, both of them having to deal with slightly modified vehicles from what they started the weekend with, but Sean Rann still holding on fairly comfortably, 2nd place in Copa Shell. There is a fascinating 4-car battle being led by Andrea Seminara just a little bit further back. Our focus, though, are on the leaders, Gilbert and Bradley Yates. That gap has come down significantly, 0.4 of a second in that first sector.
Good lap last time through from Bradley Yates. Andrea Seminara just with a small mistake, I think, just started to wander wide. However, still defending valiantly from Darren Howell, William Bolster and Ian Morris. This 4-car battle, this is something that we like to say we see as often as possible in Ferrari Challenge UK. Andrea Seminara, is he beginning to pull away slightly? Maybe, but then does that leave Darren Howell to either continue attacking and focus forward, or to focus on then defending from William Bolster and Ian Morris, who in turn are all fighting away? For Andrea Seminara, Alton Park was a dream weekend in terms of qualifying. The races didn't necessarily go his way, but this weekend he's just been in the thick of it, really. He's, from his perspective, whilst no silverware to show as of yet, the battles he's had are brilliant.
brilliant battles, and this is a good opportunity for him to get some silverware this weekend. Currently residing 3rd place in Copus Shell, ahead of Darren Howell and William Bolster and Ian Morris, not too far back either. Sean Rans showed the benefits of a defensive drive yesterday on the Indy circuit, and the slightly narrow nature of the GP loop does lend itself to that philosophy as well. It'll be interesting to see if he's able to keep that going. Sean Ran, by the way, just set a new fastest lap in the Copus Shell category, so I think it might be just a little bit too early for me to count him out, as I might have done just a little bit earlier.
Pushing on for Sean Ran, 1 minute 27.811. That's quicker than Joseph Dean, Christopher Baton and Mike Dewhurst on that previous lap. So a very good lap from Sean Ran. Christopher Baton, I think, now has lost out to Mike Dewhurst. Yes, he has, and they are much, much closer. Sean Ran and Christopher Baton, there they are, just heading towards Pilgrim's Drop now, underneath the vehicle bridge. This is the championship on the line here. If Sean Ran gets through and past, the championship in Copus Shell has no choice but to go to Donington Park.
Yeah, this is going to be important for him then to try and keep that alive. Not sure where the closure of the gap has come from, because it was over the line. He's gained 1.4 seconds in the first set, so we can only assume that's where the pass was made by Mike Dewhurst in the Dick Lovett-Swindon powered car, just ahead now of Christopher Baton. So this is a straight fight for the lead of Copus Shell. Last time by, it was half a second quicker for Sean Ran, and now he's applying a bit more pressure on Christopher Baton. Baton's going to have to try to hang on to the back of Dewhurst here as long as he can to hold that position, potentially stop that fight going on to Donington Park.
Over the start-finish line, Mike Dewhurst now trying to run away from Christopher Baton and Sean Ran. As for the battle further back, Darren Howell under huge pressure from William Bolster on the run in towards turn 1, but for the moment Bradley Yates doing everything he needs to stay there or thereabouts with Gilbert, but we know Gilbert can manage a Pirelli P0 that little bit better than his son Bradley, but of course that is more experience than anything else, because Bradley's in his opening season of motorsport and he's only 1.3 seconds away from the 2-time Ferrari Challenge UK champion, so it shows just how quick Bradley Yates is, and also how approachable the Ferrari 296 Challenge car really is. Christopher Baton still trying to run away from Sean Ran. Now he's got maybe Mike Dewhurst that little bit further away. Dirty air isn't really an issue, so he can just sit there and lap at his own pace and focus purely on what is up the road. Sean Ran will be giving chase. Darren Howell under ever increasing pressure from William Bolster. Ian Morris there or thereabouts. Andrea Seminara, this is going to be great for him because he will see that in his rearview mirror and then realise he doesn't need to worry about defending as much anymore, because Darren Howell's attentions are completely exposed by way of William Bolster.
Darren Howell will want to be looking forward, but he's not going to have that really an opportunity to do so, because the ebbs and flows as they come through the GP loop. There was a brief moment where I thought William Bolster was about to come under pressure from Ian Morris, and then 2 corners later he's right back on the rear bumper, potentially just having a peek on the inside as they come through the final corner. Not this time is he going to attempt to make a move on Darren Howell, is William Bolster. This is the battle for 4th in Copus Shell, and as they come across the start-finish line, the gap just draws out ever so slightly, doesn't really allow an opportunity to attack through Paddock Hill Bend. He's going to have to be patient and try to be smart to line up another opportunity later on in the lap.
William Bolster wasn't that far away. It seems he'll hit the brakes at the same time, but increase the pressure the deeper into the corner. So naturally he closes in the deeper into the corner you get as he gets the braking done that little bit later and further in towards the apex. Darren Howell still doing a brilliant job of not applying every ounce of attention to defending from William Bolster, because that's just keeping him within touch of Andrea Seminara as they head out towards the Grand Prix section of the circuit. Ian Morris, best seats in the house. He's watching this all unfold in front of him, just trying to figure out exactly how he can maximise the position for which he's in.
Well, it's just what approach do you take when you're Ian Morris at this point? Because it's going to be overtaking one car is hard enough, and then he's got 2 directly in front of him, going hammer and tong at it effectively, just keeping the pressure on each other. So Ian Morris is in a position where you have to wonder, do I want to be here? Do I want to, or can I push on if I'm able to get past these 2? He's been very quick all weekend as Ian Morris in the Copus Shell field. So it's going to be a case of you have to be patient, you have to wait, but at the same time he will want to push on and try to potentially go and attack Andrea Seminara himself.
If I were Ian Morris, I'd be applying pressure now. I would be flashing the lights, having little looks, because that may force William Bolster into a position of I need to make a move now, and that can open the door for yourself whilst William Bolster and Darren Howell are busy fighting. But Andrea Seminara starting to pull away just little bits over the previous couple of laps. So we'll see what he can do between now and the end of the race. But Darren Howell, you can tell he is in that battle with William Bolster. Those two nose to tail. Gilbert and Bradley Yates have fallen away from each other somewhat. 2.339 of a second was the gap over the start-finish line. Mike Dewhurst still giving chase to Joseph Dean. Christopher Baton has pulled away from Sean Rand. The closest cars we have on circuit are Darren Howell, William Bolster and Ian Morris. They are all separated. Last time they came over the line by just over 1 full second.
Yeah, they're doing a phenomenal job out there, keeping the racing as close as they can and doing a sterling job. They've also been incredibly well disciplined out on circuit. We did have a couple of track limit violations over the course of yesterday's race. Barely seen any so far during this one. Darren Howell needs to get a special mention, as we see the graphics on the screen highlighting his 2 places gained from his starting position. Dave Richardson was chatting to his driver coach on the grid. We want to go forward, we want to win. Well, this isn't a bad way to go about it. Get yourself on the podium so far at the moment. Mike Dewhurst as well, having gained a couple of positions from his starting place to get him really onto the back of the battle for Trofeo Pirelli.
Yeah, brilliant work by Darren Howell in the early stages of this race. Of course, we heard from Sean Doyle down there on the grid. But Darren, he's gained those 2 places. He would like a further one to get onto the Copa Shell podium. But he's got to soak up more and more pressure from William Bolster, who just ran slightly wide of the apex on the running towards Paddock Hill Bend. That opens the door for Ian Morris. Ian Morris, ever the optimist, dives up the inside, position made by the time they get to the apex at Druid. So one small mistake. Ian Morris was close enough. Through he goes, and Ian Morris now up into 10th overall, 5th, pardon me, in the Copa Shell class. So Andrea Seminara, that can be good but bad all at the same time, because has he built up enough of a margin to now run away from Darren Howell, or is Darren thinking, great, I don't need to defend now, I can focus on chasing Andrea and potentially getting on the Copa Shell podium?
I don't think it's good news for Andrea Seminara, in all honesty. I think Darren Howell is really going to push on now. He's already getting 2 places in this race. He's going to try to look for a 3rd. He needs to be careful though. He's on his final track limits warning, is Darren Howell, so he's been pushing along, but he's going to have to be a little bit wary now for the final 15 minutes plus 1 lap of this race. And Ian Morris is really putting the foot down now, trying to get onto the back of Darren Howell. So that could go completely against what I just said, in that Darren Howell will be looking forward very quickly. Ian Morris is flying through the 2nd sector, nearly gained over a second on Darren Howell through there, and is right onto the back of his rear bumper as they come through the final corner. Down they come along the start-finish straight, and Ian Morris, he was right behind Darren Howell at the start. He's right behind him once again at the end of the lap as well.
Into turn 1, Darren Howell can take his normal racing line, but that rearview mirror full of Ian Morris. Let's have a little look back as to how the position changed between William Bolster and Ian Morris. William almost saw that happening and just tapped the brakes nice and early to allow Ian through, and in the hopes that he might be able to then nick his way back up the inside, but it's not quite worked to that effect for William Bolster, who's got a bit more work to do. He started to fall away now. For Ian Morris, was he just driving at sort of 8, 9 tenths and not needing to push so hard? So he's got the Pirelli P0s well and truly on his side.
Yeah, he was just preserving them potentially, not putting as much workload as he potentially could have if he was in clean air, and just allowing them an opportunity to breathe a little bit and to really use the first phase of the life that they have a bit later on. He's looking up the inside in a very unconventional location to try and make a pass. It's not happened on this occasion, but that just goes to show how eager Ian Morris is now to get onto the back of Darren Howell, potentially find a way through. He might not be aware that Darren Howell is on his final warning. He's going to be pushing regardless to see if he can then if he does get past, then that opens the opportunity to go and attack Andrea Seminara.
If he is aware, doing all the right things, Ian Morris, now trying to fill the mirrors, apply pressure straight away. Don't give Darren Howell time to think, because that can force him into a small mistake and therefore exceeding track limits for that 3rd and fateful time. On the running towards turn 1, Ian Morris still follows in the wheel tracks, not quite as close as he would like on that occasion. As we look at John Turner, he just dabs the brakes, flicks the car through the final corner. John Turner, it's great to have him in the championship this season, and getting quicker and quicker weekend on weekend as well, working closely with his driver coach is John Turner. He's got Rob West with him this weekend. Gilbert Yates, he's returned to a driver coach which he knows very well indeed, Tom Fleming. who of course joined us here a couple of seasons ago in Ferrari Challenge UK. And on that occasion took 2 poles, 2 fastest laps and 2 wins, and has gone on to do brilliant things with Ferrari as a brand on the continent in GT Motorsport. Bradley Yates still following suit, not that far away, and if anything has reeled him in a little bit. We said it was sort of 2.3, 2.4 seconds. He's back down to 1.8. They crossed the line, it's down to 1.4. Bradley Yates, second win here, just past the halfway point. He's really pushing on.
He's just set a personal best lap of the race as well, 1:27.033, which is very close to the time that Gilbert Yates has done best overall. So Bradley Yates, as you mentioned, finding a second life, a second wind, and continuing to push on now. We'll see what the first sector times are as they come through the timing beam along the Cooper Straight. Gilbert Yates will get through that loop first. He does a 28.1 in that sector. Bradley Yates does a 27.9, so he is continuing to close in.
Bradley Yates, he has just started to bide his time, I think, at that midpoint of the race, and now decided, right, now's the time to go. Let's try and close in. Manuel Agostina continuing to push on. You've just spotted something as well.
Andrea Seminara has really been closed in by Darren Howell. They were very close to each other as they came through Paddock Hill Bend, and it's still the trio fighting away as they come along the Cooper Straight. So a really fascinating battle, 3-way now, I would call that, for the third step of the rostrum in Copper Shell. Just a good note as well. Manuel Agostina continuing on, as you mentioned, after yesterday with a slightly modified geometry of the Ferrari 296 on this occasion, doing a sterling job. Just it would have taken a slight confidence knock in the previous yesterday, and continuing on very well today.
She is indeed on the run in towards Sterling's now. Back towards the battle in terms of Darren Howell, or Andrea Seminara, Darren Howell and Ian Morris. Andrea Seminara, I think, has received the hurry up and realised just how close both Darren Howell and Ian Morris are getting, so it's just started to extend that margin. Ian Morris, the body language of the car dictates that he is pushing on and he is applying pressure in all of the right places, just trying to close in onto Darren Howell for the remainder of this race. They head on to the start-finish straight once again. 10.5 minutes plus that extra lap still to go.
I've got another one. I've just seen Joseph Dean being closed on very quickly by Mike Dewhurst. It was a second quicker last lap was Mike on Joseph Dean, and they, just going onto the GP loop, were effectively nose to tail within a second of each other now.
Yeah, Mike Dewhurst has really put the power down. I'd say maybe Joseph Dean, something was afoot maybe over the previous couple of laps, because there was sort of 4.5, 5 seconds between them, and that's a lot of time to lose. But Mike Dewhurst more than capable of cutting into that time, as we more than well know. So Trofeo Pirelli are all nose to tail, it would seem, or it's getting that way. They are in pairs for the most part. Gilbert Yates is pushing on that a little bit more.
He's pushing on. He's just put in an overall best Sector 2 time. Did see a couple of laps ago, Bradley Yates was flashing the lights at him, just saying, come on, Dad, get a move on. He's obliged. He is very much obliged. The gap just increasing by a tenth of a second there to 1.8 seconds between Gilbert and Bradley. It was a new fastest lap of the race by Gilbert Yates. He definitely responded to that. Here is that battle for third that we were mentioning. Joseph Dean has been closed down by Mike Dewhurst, who's just put in a lap another 7/10 quicker, so that gap down to a quarter of a second, washing out a little bit wide there on the exit of Paddock Hill Bend was Mike Dewhurst, but that will allow him an opportunity to get on the brakes a little bit later, set up the line through Druids to do whatever he wants to do through there.
Big wobble from Joseph Dean on the exit. We saw that yesterday as well, for which he did comment, saying it's so tricky to just get the confidence in your right foot coming out of Druids, and Mike Dewhurst well and truly has that, of course, being with us not only through the 296 Challenge era, but the 488 Challenge Evo era as well. So plenty of experience behind the wheel of a Ferrari Challenge UK car, continuing to push on, closing in on Joseph Dean. Ed Bridle will be grinning down there in the pit lane, just hoping to see Mike Dewhurst return to the podium. Gilbert Yates continues to extend that lead margin over Bradley Yates. Is back up to 2.3 seconds now. Joseph Dean and Mike Dewhurst just a few tenths apart. Christopher Baton, 6.5 seconds clear of Sean Rand. This could be the championship deciding race for Cooper Shell.
It could be indeed. It's the gap continues to extend. I've just been fascinated by how this race has evolved over the course of the last, it's just been over 20 minutes. The track temperature has really dropped off over the last half an hour as Mike Dewhurst had a brief look around the outside of the final corner. now, sets himself up for an opportunity. He's going to catch a little bit of slipstream as he moves towards the outside as they come towards Paddock Hill over the start-finish line. Not on this occasion. He was looking for it. He was looking around the outside of Paddock Hill, sets himself up for a run potentially on the inside, but Joseph Dean very wisely moves to defend that, forces Mike Dewhurst around the outside of the Druids corner, and now he's a lot cleaner on the exit this time is Joseph Dean, and holds on to that third place. He's going to have to put on a defensive masterclass now to keep Mike Dewhurst behind. We saw this yesterday with Mike Dewhurst. He clearly has a lot of pace in that car, and he's looking for any possible way to get himself onto that third step of the podium in Trofeo Pirelli.
Mike Dewhurst forcing Joseph Dean to go as defensive as possible. Back to the battle between Andrea Seminara, Darren Howell and Ian Morris. I fear for Darren Howell, however, it's all going to come full circle for him, and he's not quite going to finish on that podium with a 5-second time penalty to be applied post-race for exceeding track limits for Darren Howell now. So Andrea Seminara will hold on to third in Copa Shell for now, and effectively the car he's racing is Ian Morris. Here comes Mike Dewhurst, a big look up the inside of Joseph Dean in a somewhat unconventional section of the circuit, but Joseph Dean is having to go defensive a lot more than we've seen over the early stages of this race. So Mike Dewhurst, you can tell he wants that position, but where is he going to do it? He's got 6.5 minutes plus 1 lap to decide.
He's got 6.5 minutes indeed to get that one decided. I was just having a look at the timesheets as well, because a little bit further up, the House of Yates continue their battle on that gap, reduced by half a second over the course of the previous lap. Andrea Seminara with his second and final warning now for track limits as well. This could really be playing into Ian Morris's hands if it continues in this manner. Mike Dewhurst potentially having a look up the inside. Joseph Dean moves to defend that position. Not happening just yet. Mike Dewhurst, though, continuing to apply that pressure. 6 minutes and 1 lap to go. I would have about 6 laps remaining by my maths. Yeah, fascinating battle here as well. Darren Howell continuing to defend from Ian Morris. Andrea Seminara continuing to try and drive forward. It's very, very difficult, though, for them to... They'll be aware. Darren Howell will likely be aware of, well, they might not have told him actually about that potential penalty. They'll want him to continue driving on as though nothing is happening. Andrea Seminara as well on the final warning has to be careful. Ian Morris will more likely be the one who's been told of the potential infractions for the cars ahead, and maybe he'll just sit off just a little bit unless he doesn't think that Andrea Seminara is going to get another infraction, and then, well, he's going to have to push on regardless.
Yeah, if you're Darren Howell now, you almost damage limitation. You start pushing on even more to try and force Andrea Seminara into making a slight mistake. But Ian Morris, that will be what he's hoping for in the nicest way, just because it means it could promote him onto the Copa Shell podium. Gilbert Yates has been closed down by his son Bradley Yates once again over the start-finish line. Mike Dewhurst, a big look to the outside of Joseph Dean on the run in towards turn 1. It's then a late look to the inside, washes somewhat wide of the apex. It was the outside, then the inside, then the outside. Joseph Dean with a concrete level of defence, it would seem, on the run in towards turn 1.
Yeah, very much so. Mike Dewhurst looking left, looking right, looking for any way past the Stratstone Colchester car. Not able to do so as of yet, but continuing to apply that pressure. Joseph Dean having to be very firm in the defence. He's positioning his car as best as you possibly can, getting himself to block the inside line along the Cooper Straight, running through onto the GP loop. And Mike Dewhurst really applying the pressure. He's going to look around the outside again. He's going to have to be very late on the brakes to make a move here.
Yeah, late on the brakes. He will try all the way around the outside. He gives it a go. There's almost contact between the pair of them. They then just rub shoulder to shoulder, but Mike Dewhurst might go through. Joseph Dean late on the brakes. They're still rubbing as they head through the right-hander at Westfield, then up towards Sheen Curve. Mike Dewhurst, he's got that done, albeit that was maybe slightly firmer of an overtake than Mike Dewhurst wanted.
We'll call it robust.
Robust.
We'll call it a robust driving from the attacking and the defending side there for both Mike Dewhurst and Joseph Dean, but they both continue on, coming through the final corner now. Mike Dewhurst has got himself that third place. It's going to be a bit of an ask to get himself towards the Yates, but a really good drive for Mike Dewhurst regardless. We look back towards the battle for third place in Copa Shell. Andrea Seminara still ahead of Darren Howell in that one. Ian Morris has dropped off just a little bit through the course of this lap, but he's got William Morris now coming along. There was a slight excursion there for, I believe that was Seminara.
Yeah, William Bolster closing in on Ian Morris. Darren Howell closing in on Andrea Seminara, but Andrea just dropping a wheel over the curb and sending dust skywards. Over the start-finish line, they will come. This is the battle for the final step on the Copa Shell podium. A big look to the inside for Darren Howell, but the opportunity doesn't present itself on that occasion. Still with 2 3/4 minutes to go, excluding that extra lap which gets added on top. Darren Howell still there or thereabouts. Ian Morris has closed in over the course of the final and first sector, but Darren Howell, what can he do here? He's got that 5-second time penalty, so overtaking will come to net zero. However, what he will need to do is keep applying that pressure, because he may have been informed Andrea is on his last track limits warning.
He may be indeed. Look further forward again. Gilbert and Bradley Yates are down to just over a second. The gap between them. There's everywhere you look around the course, there's something going on. Ian Morris having a look up the inside, coming up on the GP loop. Not happening on this occasion. This was where Dewhurst and Dean had their duel, and he's looking on the inside again. Seminara having to move across to the very much less preferred inside line. This is going to open up an opportunity for Ian Morris behind. He's looking around the outside on the run up towards Sheen Curve. Won't be happening on this occasion. It's a very unconventional place to make a pass happen, and everyone gets back into a very sensible line as they come through Sterling Bend. But that said, Seminara running a little bit wide. Just really good momentum being carried by Darren Howell. Not enough to get alongside as they come through to the final corner. But this remains a fascinating battle in this fight for the third and final step on the Copper Shell podium.
Yeah, Ian Morris with a big look to the inside of Darren Howell on the run up towards Hawthorns. Darren Howell returned the favour to Andrea Seminara as they went towards Westfield. William Bolster with a big look up the inside of Ian Morris. So don't rule William Bolster out of this battle as of yet. Ian Morris immediately applies the pressure. Unfortunately, just wanders onto the grass as he hits the brakes. That walks him into the passenger door of Darren Howell. So William Bolster now gets through and will take 4th place in the Copa Shell class. As for Darren Howell and Ian Morris, they're left now, unfortunately, in what is 10th and 11th, which will place them, 5th and 6th in class.
I don't think William Bolster will complain too much about that one. Saw the opportunity and he took it with both hands, as well you would. This then, the penultimate lap for our overall leaders and Trofeo Pirelli leaders, Gilbert and Bradley Yates. Coming through Graham Hill Bend for the penultimate time. The gap has stretched ever so slightly up to 1.4 seconds. The battle for third in Trofeo Pirelli and overall hasn't really, the gap hasn't grown as much as I thought it was going to. Mike Dewhurst coming under pressure. There's a yellow flag. There's a car spun round at just coming onto the GP loop. I believe that was Darren Howell that's gone round. We will confirm that. And yeah, he's starting to come down the order. Ian Morris has gone through. So that's unfortunate. A little bit further back, Andrea Seminara now coming under pressure from William Bolster. Bolster's come out of nowhere here. He's now about to begin the penultimate lap for the Copper Shell, the third and final step of the podium there. So Andrea Seminara holding on for dear life onto that third step of the podium and onto the inside. William Bolster had a brief look, but Seminara managing to cover off around the outside. The momentum was very much with Seminara on that occasion. They're not going to be coming. There's not going to be an opportunity to pass there through Druids, and Seminara gets a very good exit.
Sean Rann has lost out to Manuela Gosner on that previous lap. So Darren Howell, I don't think, has managed to get back towards the pit lane, or at least the remainder of that lap. For Andrea Seminara, fighting hard with William Bolster. They enter the yellow flag zone where Darren Howell is watching from behind the wheel of his 296 Challenge car. Up Pilgrim's Rise they will go in towards Hawthorn. And what can Andrea Seminara do about defending this position now, because they will be heading on to their final lap next time by. A big look up the inside from William Bolster, the nose chopped off by Andrea Seminara. As for Mike Dewhurst and Joseph Dean, Mike Dewhurst has started to extend that margin more and more. In towards the yellow flag zone goes that battle. Our race leader, however, Gilbert and Bradley Yates, they have already worked their way on towards their final lap of the race.
Yep, they'll be going through onto the GP loop now for the final time. That means that Andrea Seminara has got another lap that he needs to hold on, and William Bolster within half a car length of the car in front of him, nearly nearly looking for an opportunity there to come down the start, finish straight to begin their final lap of the Brands Hatch GP circuit. Ian Morris is not too far behind. He's in a good position to potentially benefit from this. Bradley Yates onto his final track limits warning, but here comes Gilbert Yates into the final corner.
Gilbert Yates through the final corner now, and he will once again make it 2 from 2 in the Ferrari Challenge UK. Race 2 of round 5 of the season goes the way of Gilbert Yates. Bradley Yates over the finish line to again finish in second place, pick up some good points in his championship aspirations. We've still got the battle going on in Coperchel. It's still Andrea Seminara from William Bolster. Over the start finish line, we now see Tony Dean work his way through. And you've just spotted something.
Joseph Dean's overtaken Mike Dewhurst.
He has.
We'll see how that comes across the line. A little bit further back, Christopher Baton currently leading the way in Coperchel. Across the line, Joseph Dean has found a way through past Mike Dewhurst through the GP loop on the final lap. Christopher Baton now coming through the final corner to cement his Coperchel victory.
Yeah, Christopher Baton cementing the victory in the race, but cementing the victory in the championship as well. Christopher Baton, your 2026 Ferrari Challenge UK Coperchel champion after a brilliant season up until this point, and will hopefully continue that towards Donington Park. So Joseph Dean and Mike Dewhurst, they were around about a second apart, but clearly something's gone on out on the Grand Prix section of the circuit. Sean Rann has come through to finish in second place in Coperchel, and on the run to the line, who's going to get the final step on the Coperchel podium? Will it be Andrea Seminara? Will it be William Bolster? Andrea Seminara, just about by a car's length, will take the final step on the Coperchel podium. But Gilbert Yates, your eventual race winner, he will arrive at Donington Park with as championship favourite in Trofeo Pirelli, looking to become the first ever 3-time Ferrari Challenge UK Trofeo Pirelli champion. Bradley Yates finished in second place. Joseph Dean rounds out your overall and Trofeo Pirelli podium. Mike Dewhurst, so close, yet so far, unfortunately, will finish in fourth place. Christopher Baton not only wins the race, but wins the 2026 Ferrari Challenge UK Coperchel Championship. Manuela Gosner will finish 6th overall, 5th in Coperchel. Sean Rann back on the podium again. He will finish in second place. Andrea Seminara rounds out your Coperchel podium, albeit it wasn't very easy. William Bolster will finish 9th overall, 4th in Coperchel. Ian Morris rounds out your top 10 and your top 5 in Coperchel. And he finished ahead of Tony Dean, John Turner, and unfortunately Darren Helm just a couple of laps away from the checkered flag. But the Yates rolling their way down the pit lane. Gilbert knows now a steady weekend at Donington Park, and that's all he needs to win the championship once again.
But a steady weekend by his standards is going to be fighting at the front throughout, I would imagine.
A steady weekend for Gilbert, still winning.
Still winning, yeah, absolutely. Superb race that was there throughout the field. Really good watch all the way, like battles wherever you looked, and we get to see that Gilbert Yates, well, he's going to be able to add an 8th sticker onto that car after that race win. He's got the 7 already, and that's, I believe that will be 8 in a row for Gilbert Yates, completing that weekend sweep once again for him. He did have the fastest lap of the race as well, which was a 1:26.537, very much on par with the times that were being set during last year's race, albeit in very difficult conditions that we had here today. The wind gusts really picked up there towards the final stage of the race, even as the track temperature continued to drop, but a really good run all round. So we're just going to now hand it down to Dave Richardson, who I believe is going to be down there with our race winner.
I am indeed. Alongside Gilbert Yates, who receives his race winner's cap. And Gilbert Yates then, can I be the very first to say, well done on your race win, but another championship win as well. Gilbert Yates, you are the champion.
I didn't realise that. If you had told me I'd have been on the roof of the car, Dave.
Well, you can still do it. Well done, well done. But again, your boy has been whooping your bottom, but you did it.
Yeah, he was putting me under a bit of pressure there, and then I felt the back tires going off. They just kept looking in the mirror, and then I made a few mistakes, but he made a few in the same lap, I think. So, yeah, it was a good race.
Well done to you, Gilbert. And yes, champion, we are told. Provisional until everybody actually signs it off. But yes, right, let's see if we can get hold of Chris Baton now. Come with me, Piero. Joseph Dean, the overtake of the year. Here is Chris Baton then, being congratulated by the head of Corsa Clienti, Andrea Miladizic. Chris Baton then, Coperchel champion for 2026. We'll let him get his crash helmet off and hands device and fireproof balaclava as well. Have to say that where once it looked an assured Championship going the way of Chris Baton over the last few rounds. He's had to dig deep and fight very hard for it, but he's done it and shown what a great racing driver he is. And there you can see crash helmet coming off. And we'll get in to have a word with Chris Baton with the race winner's cap, but not only the race winner's cap, congratulations, champion.
Thank you. It's been a long three races, you know. And the guys have been so quick and so on it. And today was a real battle with Sean. That thankfully I came out on top. But yeah, hell of a race. Hell of a race.
Just as I was waiting for you to get all your paraphernalia off, I was saying that, you know, where once it looked an assured thing.
Yeah.
Kind of mid-season on, Chris, you had to dig really deep.
Oh, absolutely. Alton Park, you know, was an absolute disaster for me. First race here, Sean just romped off and left us all behind. So, yeah, it's good to have that pressure, though. It's great. It makes it interesting.
You are a racer, that's for sure, and
absolutely,
a champion racer.
Racing.
Well
Thank
done,
you.
Chris.
Thank
we'll
you
be
very
seeing
much.
you on the podium shortly. So, there we have it then. I managed to get the emotions of our two new champions for 2026 here in Brands Hatch. Back to you two, Jax. I'll bring you the podium in just a mo.
Thank you, Dave. Great to hear from both of our champions. And yes, we have had confirmation up here that provisionally, albeit mathematically, we are seeing two champions crowned today by way of Gilbert Yates for his third Trofeo Pirelli Championship, and also that of Christopher Baton for his first Copa Shell Championship. The race got underway with Gilbert Yates immediately trying to put a couple of car lengths between himself and his son Bradley Yates, but Christopher Baton, the best start of them all, he managed to work his way through and past both Mike Dewhurst and Sean Rann, which put him in the pound seat. He was in the lead of Copa Shell for a long while until he saw the checkered flag, but that all-important move was done on the very first lap of the race. Mike Dewhurst then nipped his way up the inside of Sean Rann, who was defending valiantly from Manuel Agostinho throughout the race. We then saw Mike Dewhurst slowly start to come into his own and then apply more and more pressure onto the coattails of Christopher Baton. Further down in Copa Shell, this was the battle for the final step on the Copa Shell podium. It was Andrea Seminara defending from Darren Howell, defending from William Bolster, and also defending from Ian Morris. Four cars, all nose to tail, desperately trying to fight their way onto their respective class podium. But Darren Howell managed to shake away the attentions of William Bolster after a small mistake from Ian Morris, but Ian Morris immediately tried to fight his way back up the inside, managed to work his way back up into fifth in class, and then set his attentions onto fourth, where Darren Howell was housing that position. Mike Dewhurst, having worked his way through and past Christopher Baton, then set his sights on to Joseph Dean. They arrived up at Hawthorne absolutely side by side. By the time they left Hawthorne, there was a bit of contact between the pair of them, just starting to lean on each other somewhat. Carbon fibre sent skywards, but finally Mike Dewhurst, after a bit of rough and tumble, managed to secure that position for the moment ahead of Joseph Dean. Andrea Seminara under huge pressure from the number 66 machine of William Bolster, who couldn't quite get close enough, but eventually your two champions came over the line to win their respective classes, Gilbert Yates and Christopher Baton.
Podiums to come then. Podium time for Ferrari Challenge 2026. I'm checking out to make sure we've got all the drivers that we need, and we have. First and foremost then, it's the 2026 Brands Hatch Race 2 Pirelli podium, taking P3. Give it up for Joseph Dean. Can I just say what an overtake that was? Well done you. Taking P2, here's Bradley Yates. And on the top step of the podium, your new Pirelli champion is Gilbert Yates. And of course, the dealer is going to be represented as well. We'll get Charles Hurst in here for the Copa dealer presentation, and welcome our Ferrari factory driver, Phil Hansen, who will be doing the trophy presentations. Joseph Dean then will receive P3 from Phil Hansen, Ferrari factory driver, Le Mans winner, all-time good bloke. And up next it will be Bradley Yates that will receive the P2 trophy. And another win for Gilbert Yates, but the big one And Copa Dealer trophy being presented to Charles Hurst. And as if that were not enough, another trophy to come, this time the Pirelli trophy, which Phil Hansen once again makes the presentation to Gilbert Yates. Phil in there for the photographs. So all the photographs being taken now. The focus of the world's media upon our Ferrari Challenge Trofeo Pirelli drivers. Everyone on the top step of the podium. Lee there conducting all the photos that are going on here. Who is going to win the champagne race? It's Bradley Yates for sure. Oh. Well, that was a bit lively. Oh my goodness me. I don't think I've seen Gilbert and Bradley Yates move like it. Wow, they were quick. So that is our Pirelli podium done. Up next, it's time for... we're just sorting the podium out here. Once we've done that, we can get on with our Copa Shell podium. Claudio here is in charge of podium ceremonies. Yep, that one there. We sorted. Fantastic. Time for our Copa Shell podium now, I think. Taking P3 in Ferrari Challenge Copa Shell at Brands Hatch, Andrea Seminara. Taking P2, here comes Sean Rand. And our race winner and 2026 Copa Shell champion, Chris Payton. Fantastic camaraderie between all of our drivers there. And of course, our Copa dealer needs to be represented as well, and that is Gray Paul Nottingham. Where is he? We were having lunch together today. So once again, we call upon our Ferrari factory driver, Phil Hansen, to make the presentations of the trophies. First of all, to Andrea Seminara taking P3. It's P2 for Sean Rand. And taking the win and the championship, it's Chris Payton. And Gray Paul Nottingham in receipt of the Copa Dealer trophy. Well done, Phil. You stay there for the photos as well. No one's going to beat that sprint from Gilbert Yates. My goodness me. The Trofeo Pirelli champagne race was awesome. Big smiles all round from our Copa Shell podium then. Oh, I say. The celebrations have been livelier today than ever before. Well done to all of our drivers with a Trofeo Pirelli or Copa Shell. The podiums are done and dusted. Jack Mace, Jack Werrell, back to you.
Thank you very much, Dave Richardson. We were just giggling up in our commentary boxes. Andrea Seminara slammed the bottle down to try and celebrate. The champagne from his own bottle decided to hit him in the face. But it's great to see, under the sun here at Brands Hatch, that everyone's all in incredibly high spirits. We've crowned 2 champions, in theory 3 today with Copa Dealer. Here are the results from race 2. Gilbert Yates took the win once again in Trofeo Pirelli ahead of Bradley Yates, Joseph Dean, Mike Dewhurst and Manuela Gostner. That was your Trofeo Pirelli finishers. As we look at Copa Shell, your 2026 champion took the win of Christopher Payton. Sean Rand finished in 2nd place, another podium for him. Andrea Seminara retakes to the podium, finishing in 3rd. William Bolster in 4th. Ian Morris finished in 5th. Ahead of Tony Dean, John Turner and Darren Howell. The championship finished with Gilbert Yates on top in Trofeo Pirelli. Bradley Yates in 2nd place. Joseph Dean will leave here in 3rd, ahead of Mike Dewhurst in 4th and Manuela Gostner in 5th. As we look at Copa Shell, Quite rightly, Christopher Baton in the lead or has taken the championship, 32 points clear of Sean Ran in second. William Bolster tied for third with Andrea Seminara. That's going to be one to watch at Donington Park. Darren Howell rounds out the top 5 in the Copa Shell Championship, as we have a little look at some of the statistics from this weekend in terms of speed. When you actually look at Copa Shell, going off the top of speed, Ian Morris, one of the quickest drivers that we had with us this weekend. Mike Dewhurst, with the most overtakes we saw from his starting position. Sean Ran with the fastest lap in that race as well. But another brilliant weekend of Ferrari Challenge UK ticked off in our 2026 season. Jack Mace, plenty to look forward to as we head to Donington Park.
Plenty to look forward to at Donington Park. An absolute pleasure as Brands Hatch celebrates its century of power to crown 2 more champions here in Ferrari Challenge UK. Hopefully many more to come in the future as well. Very much looking forward to Donington. It's going to be fascinating to see how that one pans out as well.
Fascinating to see. Plenty to look forward to. Thank you so much for joining us at the circuit if you are here. Thank you for joining us at home as well. It's been an absolute pleasure. But from Dave Richardson down in the pit lane, Jack Mace alongside me, myself, Jack Werrell, we look forward to seeing you at Donington Park in a few weeks. Bye-bye.